Marcellus Wiley, former NFL All-Pro defensive end and host of More to It, great podcast on the Dan Patrick Podcast Network, and interviews with him. You talked you talked about this on the podcast where you said you were going to answer questions this past week about the Eagles were trying to be too perfect to stay perfect. Explain that logic to the audience.
Yeah, it's interesting when you watch a team go out there and all of a sudden try to play up to their label and play up to their results. A lot of this is mental. And so I saw the Philadelphia Eagles go into a game where they only had 3 turnovers in 8 games. And all of a sudden, the projection of perfection and the conversations continue to be had about them comparing to the 72 Dolphins. And you saw a team have 4 turnovers in 1 game after only having 3 in 8 games. And in those moments when you're trying to do it big, it's always about the little things. And you may take your eyes off of those little things when you're trying to live up to a label. When you're trying to live up to being perfect, you actually mess up on all those little things that added up to that perfect result. I saw it on full display watching those Eagles mess up those minimum moments.
What came to mind when you heard Derek Carr say what he said after the loss to the Colts?
I was really disturbed at the fact that players get into this performance at times where they have to show that they're more invested than others, especially when adversity hits. Like all of a sudden you see the fracturing of a team just because we're facing this adversity. So now you have guys who are supposed to be leaders who are really raising their hand to show everyone, I'm so committed, I'm more invested than my teammates. This is not on me. So now you're seeing guys just go out there and instead of being selfless, they're being selfish. And Derek Carr, who I think is authentic, who I think is an emotional leader for this team, has still fallen short on the football field. So the last thing we need is theater at the podium to tell everyone that you are the one that is first in, last out, like the rest of the guys are not as committed as you.
Well, Davante Adams echoed what Derek Carr had to say, basically calling out teammates.
Yeah, you know what's so crazy about it? Because they're going to be protected or at least given benefit of doubt. When you're playing in Sin City, as soon as anything goes wrong, we're going to blame the city. We're going to blame the surroundings. We know that. And then you're going to have committed guys who I assume, Davante Adams, who I assume Derek Carr, but I also assume other players on this team. So Coach used to always say, if you got a problem with the team and you want to address it publicly, I need names and numbers. Don't you go out there and generalize. Because if you're going to step out there and say, we got a problem in here, isolate the problem. So you already have violated what the code is. Don't tell everybody our business. And if you are, be specific.
There's this rush now to get grass over turf. And I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know if it solves everything. But what do you make of some of the stars, including Aaron Rodgers, coming out saying, we got to go back to grass?
Yeah, I hate grass. So I'm on the other side. If they need anybody to sit there and say pro turf, I'll sit here as a retired player who loved turf.
Why?
Look, well, football's 100% guaranteed injury rate, no matter what surface you play on. Like, can we stop with this old 92 versus 89%? Like, that's not the conversation I want to have. We're going to get hurt on grass and turf. What happens on grass is it feels better when you get hurt. On turf, it hurts more when you get hurt, but they both end in the same damn place. Pain. I love turf because I was able to perform better in all conditions. I remember playing in Pittsburgh, and they had to play, after the University of Pittsburgh resodded the field. It was beach volleyball. I remember also playing on turf, no matter what the weather conditions were. At least I didn't have to worry about my traction and my speed. So I know I'm going to get hurt if I play football long enough. So get that out the conversation. Which surface allows me to perform the best? Obviously, that's turf.
Worst field you ever played on?
That Pittsburgh field was pretty bad. Cincinnati, I think it was my rookie year. We're laying there stretching pregame, and one of my teammates like, man, look at this field. It's slanted. And you literally could look across the field And you could see the field was built like this. Like it literally was slanted. I don't know if that was for irrigation or just lazy landscape. I don't know who did this, but the field was slanted and the turf was horrible. You can see the seams in the turf, but that was old school football, wide shoulder pads, AFL feeling. But of recent memory, it was Pittsburgh. They need to get that side together.
We're talking to Marcellus Wiley, the former All-Pro defensive end, and his podcast, More to It, the latest episode dropping today. Maybe it's too soon to bring this up. The Music City Miracle.
Oh God, here you go. You must not like me. Let's do it.
Were you a rookie that year? Second year with Buffalo?
Let's say second, third year. Okay. Yeah, I remember that play vividly. Where are we going with this?
Where were you when it happened?
Oh, man, I'm like Derek Carr. Wasn't on me. I was on the sidelines crying like Derek Carr. I was on the sideline. I've been taken off of our kickoff team because I got flipped. I was one of the best gunners in kickoff. Young players, you got to play kickoff. I was doing amazing, got to a Miami game. I got decleated, which means somebody knocked me off my feet, flipped in the air, tackled the guy, caused a fumble. Wade Phillips runs up to me. He's like, you know what, Marcellus, that was amazing, and you're never doing that again because I need you on defense. So I'm on the sideline, and I'm watching the play develop with the best perspective because I'm on the sideline, and you can see it. When Gash gets the ball, he jogs. And as soon as you see a kick returner jogging, setup, alarms going off. But I wasn't on the play. I wasn't in the field of battle. Those guys were out there. And next thing you know, you see a pass to the other side, and all we saw were Tennessee Titans. We didn't see anybody from the Buffalo Bills on that side. And we know how that all ended. It ended in a lot of tears and a lot of pain.
How long did that replay take?
Oh, God. In real time, Dan, I think it was like 24 minutes or something. It felt like eternity. You're sitting there, you're watching everyone gather around the officials. And all of a sudden it became like a mob. The officials are sitting there looking through the camera, and all of the crowd seems like they're just hovering and surrounding them and really just like being vigilantes out there, like, just intimidating them. And you can see the officials like just going back and forth. And when they came out with the call, I mean, it took astrophysicists and it took MIT to try to break this play down. And I don't think anybody has a definitive answer, but we felt the pain and the torture and the twisting of that blade, what felt like 20 plus minutes.
I've had a couple of callers say this. I've heard some other people use this analogy that Bill Cowher came out and was really angry that you're going to hire Jeff Saturday and he has no coaching experience. He was offended by this. But people pointed out, did Bill Cowher have any experience to sit in on the CBS pregame show? He jumped the line. I don't think it's apples to apples, but can you see where people are trying to compare the two? Saturday moved to the head of the line. Bill Cowher moved to the head of the line to be in TV.
Oh, absolutely. I think it highlights a greater problem we have in our world today. There's like a pandering epidemic going on where people are just saying things, not thinking it all the way through just because they know it will land safely in today's culture. So this was really a play of saying, oh, man, Jeff Saturday has privilege. Jeff Saturday has white privilege. But I don't know if Bill Cowher would come out and say this if that were a black coach. Think about how that lands. Oh, a black coach can't skip the line. There have been other coaches that skip the line, even though this happens in other sports and this happened in our sport. Jason Kidd became a head coach. Jason Kidd was just a great point guard, and that turned into being a head coach. You see it all the time, and people don't really understand it because they don't really respect human capital, like relationships, networking. All of that is the fine print of any relationship, any contract. Like if you don't have a good relationship with someone you're going to work with or work for, you don't get that opportunity. Guess what? Vice versa occurs as well. If you have a tremendous relationship and you have a resume that's tremendous in a different endeavor, we will translate that relationship and that resume to this new opportunity. I've been the benefactor of great opportunities, leaping the line, skipping the line. I think everyone has, because it's not so merit-based that relationships don't matter.
Interesting that, let's say it's a black member of the media.
Okay.
And they would get promoted. How do you think the media would have reacted? Let's say Ryan Clark of ESPN got the job. He's the head coach of the Colts. Knows a lot of football. Maybe it's not apples to apples because he didn't play for Jim Irsay and the Colts. I'm trying to think if there's somebody in the media, African-American, if they did that, would the reaction have been different, or how much
absolutely
different?
Absolutely have been different, because the culture is in a different place right now. And as culture is defined by Ben Horowitz, the venture capitalist, great guy, great friend, culture is what's rewarded. It's not the signs on the wall, discipline, desire. It's not be on time. It's none of that. It's what is getting rewarded. And in this moment in time, you actually will get rewarded if you sit there and support an African American who gets an opportunity that is deemed usually for a white American. So that's something that we know is getting rewarded right now. There's tons of money being invested, funds, all of this interest towards that. So when that happens, if you say that, you're going with the flow, you're going with the stream. But if you go the other way, obviously what doesn't come is rewards. What comes is consequences, bad consequences. And people start to deem you as either insensitive or even racist on the other extreme. So Bill Cowher knows this. He knows this is something that goes with the flow. This is something that goes with the stream, the mainstream. Mm-hmm. So I know if he would have went the other way, he knows how that lands, and it doesn't land the same as the way he went.
Great to talk to you as always.
My man.
What do you got in store coming up on the podcast?
Oh, what we got in store is we're going through culture, sports, entertainment. The fans are responding with questions, and we're just going to hit all the topics. We got tremendous guests lined up as well. Terrell Owens wants to jump on here, had a conversation with him. So we got guys lined up and conversations to have.
Thank you, Marcellus.
All right. Appreciate it, Dan.
That's Marcellus Wiley, former All-Pro defensive end, the host of the podcast More to It. It's on the Dan Patrick Podcast Network. You can get it there or wherever you get your podcast.